It's October the 26th, 2013. This is 508, a show about Worcester. I'm the one you love to hate, Michael Benedetti. And this is the fan favorite, Brendan Melican.
How are you?
Hi, Brendan.
What's happening?
What's happening is local election 2013. We've interviewed a bunch of the challengers for City Council, Worcester City Council, in the upcoming election. I have interviewed a bunch of them, and you have interviewed a couple.
One or two. You did a fine job. There's really good coverage this year.
And and so we're going to talk today about the election overall. We usually don't talk about horse race stuff on this show. Horse race stuff meaning, you know, like who said what mean thing to who, or Gary Rosen has a particularly great comb he's handing out this year, or that kind of stuff. This show we might talk a little bit about this. We're going to have endorsements.
Perfect.
We're going to endorse candidates. There's a lot of journalists out there who are going to pretend like they have no opinion. They have an opinion. They probably have a stronger opinion than we do. But we're just going to be honest and share our opinion with you. We're going to talk about some corrections from some of the interviews that we did, maybe predictions, maybe explain city government. Do you understand Worcester city government?
No idea what's going on around here.
Here's what I'm going to say. You have the city council, who are like the board of directors of the city, right? Like the city manager is like the executive, the president of the city. He makes it happen. The city council is the board of directors. They hire him, they fire him. They come up with policies, they come up with laws. I think especially though, they do like constituent services. Like they're kind of like the city manager's elected advisory committee. If you got a problem with a street, a sidewalk, some issue in the city, and you don't know who to turn to, your city councilor is who you turn to practically.
Sure.
Then there's the school committee.
Then there's the school committee.
They control how much, like 2/3 of the city budget?
The school budget is enormous, so yeah, it's up there.
They control like most of the city budget, the school's budget. They are also people who can intercede with you on school issues if you need someone to intercede with you on school issues. They have somewhat of a different connection, different relationship with their executive, who is the school superintendent, in that they have a more adversarial. They have more of a situation where they're actually telling that person what to do. People frequently criticize the Worcester City Council for not telling the city manager what to do and for letting the city manager provide leadership. I think that our superintendent tries to provide leadership. I think our school committee also tries to provide leadership. There's a certain amount of butting of heads. The school committee is probably, if you have any kids or you care about who has more money, it's probably more important.
And there's some overlap too, where the mayor serves as de facto chair of the school committee.
That's right. So this is an explanation of what we're talking about for Worcester City government. School committee, I don't know. I find the schools completely boring and uninteresting to talk about. But city council, on the other hand, I love it.
Are they boring, or is it that there's too much to talk about?
You know, there's too much to talk about. I don't have any kids in school, so I don't care. I never went to public schools in Worcester, so it's like a completely. I understand it in a theoretical way that it's important. Mm-hmm. But I have no practical connection to it, so it's hard for me to engage my interest, you know?
Sure.
Whereas the city council's always trying to like ban sunglasses or something. They're always trying to do something like that. So the city council has lots of weird day-to-day interactions with the life of people in the city.
They're the ones that can actually make life miserable for you.
I don't think it make life miserable. They could like ban sunglasses or something like that. Yeah. Anyways, so what do we need to talk about? I guess we need to talk about so we have like a bunch of people who are running at large. That is, we have, oh my goodness, I'm going to script the number. Six people who are like the entire city gets to vote on. All the people who are running for that also get to run, if they want to, for mayor. The mayor is a separate item on the ballot. So for example, Gary Rosen in the past used to get like the most votes of anyone running at large. But he wouldn't get elected the mayor because when it came down to decide who was going to be the mayor, he didn't get the most votes on that part of the ballot.
Right.
And then we have these districts, we have these 5 districts in the city. Not every district councilor has somebody running against them. Mm-hmm. A few of them do. So that's who we're going to talk about. I think as a guide, we're actually going to use this Worcester Magazine election issue. I think this is the best overall candidate guide that I've seen this year, which is possibly an indictment of the fact that there haven't been a lot of like really rousing debates and other coverage of this election. Because this is good, but this is not like, I don't know, this is not good enough that we should think it should be the best guide to politics in Worcester this election cycle, but it probably is. Plus these photos are incredible. If you can look at them online, they're high resolution. Some of these people look super interesting in their photos. So anyway, so we're gonna.
Some of them look like they may have recently passed.
Yes. Some of the people do not look healthy in these photos, unfortunately. So I don't know if we want to talk about, like, you said you wanted to talk about the incumbents as well as the challengers. Like, I think we probably need to endorse who people should vote for.
Well,
but
yeah, and I mean,
we also want to talk about the incumbents.
I don't know what the right way to go through the incumbents is at this point. I mean, they've all been around for a while, for the most part, at least in terms of personality. The one thing that was in my mind, and I'll let you decide whether or not this is the right way to go, but as we're taping this, Phish is in town this weekend.
Yes.
And I was thinking it'd be a nice way to go through the roster of incumbents, at least from the city council side,
yes,
and discuss what it would be like to do acid with them.
That sounds legitimate. You're kind of more the expert on this than me.
I don't know about that. This is
what? Yeah. Oh, I definitely know that's true. Maybe you could take this one away. How about here we have running for mayor, Constantina Lukes.
I think Connie on LSD would be a lot like giving amphetamines to a chihuahua, and she'd just be running around manically telling everybody that she could contact how amazing the most mundane things in life were. Like, she'd just be like, this grass is so green, this water is so wet. It would just be overwhelmed with just all of the mundane things that she never bothered to notice in life before.
I love that idea. Did you see this most recent series of Mad Men?
No.
Roger Sterling drops acid.
Oh, really?
Similar, less manic.
Okay.
But it's very profound to him.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Petty, mayor of Worcester.
I think Joe would be a lot like it would probably end up being a lot like the streaking scene in the movie Old School. He would just get naked and start running.
You think Joe would go? This would let Joe cut loose.
This would be probably the first time he cut loose.
Because he doesn't cut loose.
No.
He used to market himself as the quiet man.
Yeah.
The quiet man would not
up.
be quiet no more. He would be the Will Ferrell of Worcester. These guys are some challengers. Mike Germain.
I think Mike Germain would actually just end up, you would probably find him wearing a smoking jacket with his legs crossed, smoking a pipe, being very, very calm and to himself.
He would relax.
Yeah.
He would class up a little bit.
It would be like a moment of clarity.
Councillor Rushton.
Councillor Rushton, I think, would be dangerous. I would actually say, I think both he and Tony Economou, I would put them in the same sort of category, where I think you would just want to stay out of their way. And it's, you're not going to get any major revelations and whatnot. You would just back off, let them do their thing, and
Rick is going to be so mad at this allegation.
He might actually show up in the show high just to prove us wrong. But
Kathleen Kate Toomey.
I hadn't actually thought about that one.
I don't know. I don't think she. You know what? I don't think she would do it.
Yeah.
She would. You know what? She would like switch the paper to something else, and then she would act some way, and then later she'd be like, Brendan,
I gotta be honest.
I didn't want to do acid. I knew everybody else was doing it, but I didn't want to do acid.
It was not peer pressure.
You know, I can respect that. Tony Economou, District 1, you're saying would
just
be,
like Rick. Yeah, just stay out of the way. It's going to be chaos.
I don't think I've ever met him.
No.
I have no.
He's a nice guy. Tony's a nice guy.
I have no understanding of him. How about Councillor Palpatine, Phil Palmieri?
100% sure. He would be the guy who leads the rest of the council to safety. He stays totally cool. Make sure everyone just keeps breathing and stays focused and doesn't let their brain get the best of them. He would actually be the ringleader of the whole event.
He's the man you need in your corner.
He is the guy that's going to keep he's the safe guy that's going to keep everybody calm.
Whenever some kind of weaponized drugs have been let into the room.
When someone comes up with aerosol LSD, he's the guy you want to be around. What's going on over here with the wind?
Sarai Rivera.
You missed George down there, I think.
Oh, George. I'm sorry. George Russell.
George is going to just ask so many questions before he actually takes the acid that he just ends up being a giant buzzkill for everybody. Everybody goes home, just forget it. We'll find the time to do this without George.
You know what, though? He's relentless.
He's relentless.
I love that guy. Sarai Rivera.
Similar to Phil, I think she's the person one of those people that you want to stand by. She'll soften up a lot. All the edge will come off of the personality, and she'll be like the house mother for the entire council as they're navigating their way through this new part of their new
Her and
chapter
Paul
in their
Mary.
life. Her and Paul Mary.
Co-chairs. It's too bad we don't have co-mayors.
Yeah, we should have maybe co-mayors.
Bill Eddy, District 5.
Absolutely manic at the beginning, and then he's just going to find the nearest bed and hide under it. You won't see him for the next 8 hours.
I don't blame him.
8 hours, staying under the bed.
Are these guys all in the same room as each other?
I don't know. That could get a little creepy.
That would be super terrifying.
That would be awkward.
Okay, and well, there's your city council incumbents. Brendan Milliken's person. Oh, what about Joe O'Brien, who's not running for re-election? Do you have a comment on this?
No, I don't think that'd be fair because he's actually not up on. He's not on the ballot.
Joe O'Brien doesn't have to go through this. All right. So who do you want to endorse? You know who I want to endorse for city council?
Who's that?
All the challengers.
Yeah.
How about you?
I actually would take it a step further, and I'm going to say anyone who's out there that maybe the folks that have been watching Russell Brand over the last couple days and hearing his rants about not voting and whatnot, vote, but just bullet Bill Coleman.
Just
Bullet
Bill
vote
Coleman.
Just vote Coleman.
It's like, what was that thing where like Stephen Colbert was trying to run for president in South Carolina, Senate or something in South Carolina, and he couldn't get on the ballot.
For Senate. He was running for,
No, he was running for president, and Herman Cain, whacked out Republican guy, was on the ballot, but at that point his whole campaign had exploded.
Right.
And so Colbert had said, like, and they had made a deal of like, if you like Colbert, even though he's not on the ballot, vote for Cain. It's a symbolic vote for Stephen Colbert. So if you like Russell Brand, Bill Coleman hasn't agreed to this, but this could be a symbolic.
This
vote
could be
for
your symbolic vote, and But you know, I mean, we've had Bill on the show a bunch of times.
I love Bill.
He's a great guy, and you know, well, there's plenty of things that I might not agree with him about. He's probably the most reasonable guy to disagree with imaginable.
Yes.
And what more could you possibly want in a leader for the city? You know, I mean, just somebody that you can have conversations with. And there are other folks on the council who I think of in the same way. That I mean, they're actually great people to disagree with. But what's he been at this for? 30 years now?
Bill, he's been running since the late 70s.
Yeah, so it's time.
It's time. It is time. You know what I'll say about Bill Coleman too is, if somebody says to me, I don't want a city council full of Bill Colemans, I will say neither do I. But do I want a Bill Coleman on the city? First of all, are there 9, 11 Bill Colemans in the city of Worcester? No. Right. So it's not a problem. Second of all, I want one on there. Like, I honestly want one Kate or one Connie Lukes on there. Yeah. A lot of people disagree with me. I want one Connie Lukes on the city council. I want one Bill Coleman on the city council. That's my endorsement for Bill Coleman. Bill Feagbay, who's running for, as Bill Coleman, is running for mayor and for council at large. I don't know this guy. One thing I really like is that in his answers to Worcester Magazine, he says that the mayor is the one running the city.
I think we should endorse him for just question number 1 in this article. He's the only person that actually answered the question the way it was asked. Yes or no question. Do you renew the manager's contract? His answer, yes, with a period next to it.
Yes, period.
That's the only correct answer. Everybody else is commas, and then they go into a rant about what they're supposed to do with the
focus,
manager.
attention to detail.
He's paying attention. That's the guy you want in your corner.
This guy. That's our second endorsement.
Wrong on me, huh?
You know, and you can vote for either one for mayor. Probably Bill Coleman. You can vote for either one. Mo Bergman, who we had on this show, is running at large. I want to vote for Mo because I think he knows what's going on with a lot of things in the city of Worcester. I think that that's valuable. Yeah. I think he's been on the zoning board. He's been on different boards. He knows how to run a meeting. Honestly, I think that the fundamentals like that are valuable. You know, he talked on here a little bit about changing some zoning ideas, and he probably doesn't want to liberalize zoning laws as much as I would like to, but I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit vis-a-vis zoning in Worcester.
Sure. Yeah, no, I don't have any issue with that, and I've always found him to be a pretty pragmatic guy, and you know, it's fun to think of all of the complete lunatics that we would like to bring onto the council, and you can do that, but only if you've got a core of very pragmatic folks that can actually reel in the nonsense and the lunatics back to the real middle.
Mo Bergman is not going to be a lunatic.
He's not a lunatic.
He's going to rein it in.
Well, if he gets elected and we have to go through the acid experiment, he could end up being a lunatic. But for the time being, he's just a very pragmatic guy, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that in terms of local politics.
Mesfin Bashir was on this show. I really liked talking to this guy. He was super energetic, super enthusiastic, has this really diverse background of growing up in Ethiopia, moving to the United States, living amongst Ethiopian Orthodox, living amongst Catholics, living with Muslims, like having this super diverse background.
And he's the only person that I think we've interviewed as a politician who has offered that if we ever find our way back to his home country, he will somehow manage some sort of security that he was very vague on. It seemed to be indicating that warlords would be looking out for us, and I liked that, because if I travel places that I'm unfamiliar with, I like having a fixer. And he seems to be the only person that's articulated his ability to be that guy. But it's important. So you're laughing, but this is important.
It's a safe country, Ethiopia.
When you bring somebody to Worcester, you in your head, you have all the things that you want to introduce them to, that you want to show them. Give for me the example of the people on the council who play that role for newcomers to Worcester or visitors to Worcester. I think that's one of the critiques that we often have of the council, is they're not the best marketing people for the city of Worcester.
Right.
For a variety of reasons, whether it be they're very insulated into their own little universe or whatnot.
They're busy.
If this guy can tell me that he can make it safe for me to travel to Ethiopia, I'm going to guess that he's also the guy that's going to do a good job of introducing new people to the city of Worcester.
He's going to make it safe for people to come to Worcester.
He's
going to say, I want to take you to West Hatnick. I'll arrange security.
I'll arrange security for you.
He'll be fine. Mike Gaffney. Here's what I want to say about Mike Gaffney, is that he's coming out of this Tea Party background. He kind of denied it on the show. We're going to bring it up later. Just as I think that it's good that we have Donna Calorio, a Tea Partier, on the city council to represent that attitude.
Yeah.
And like, it's good to have Mike Gaffney on the city council.
Mm-hmm.
Vote. You know what? You're going to get to vote for 6 people for city council, for at large. You're going to have 6. You don't have to vote all those blanks. You're going to have 6 blanks. Does really not 1/6 of you kind of sympathize with the Tea Party? Really? That 1/6 of you should vote for Mike Gaffney.
I think that's a fair assessment. You know, Mike actually and his wife actually stopped at my house knocking doors last weekend. We had a great conversation on the front on my front stairs, and he's actually the only candidate that's come to my house knocking on the door, which I think is interesting. But the conversation was great, and he's clearly a very smart guy. He believes what he believes, and we can critique somebody on their beliefs and we can disagree with them. But again, only someone who's intelligent and able to work through those beliefs is somebody that you can have a friendly disagreement about. And I think that is one of the challenges that we have in Worcester, either people who are so locked into their ideals that they're not able to break, or in some ways that they're not actually capable of realizing and thinking through that there are other ways of looking at life, and the conclusion that you may have come to 20, 30 years ago in life may not be the best fit for contemporary Worcester residents. So yeah, I mean, I think he's another person that there's probably room for, simply because there are people that think like him, that agree with him, that need some degree of representation in the city.
Peter Cush, running for city council. Did you say that his name is some sort of synonym for marijuana?
I did. You know, it was funny. It was about a month and a half ago. There was over the weekend that his signs went out. They all vanished overnight, and everyone was scrambling to figure out who's stealing all the signs. It seemed pretty clear to me, and I think this has been confirmed through some of the colleges and campus safety officers in the city, that yes, Kush. So OG Kush is one of the original granddaddy super potent strains of marijuana. Mm-hmm. It's spelled the same way his last name is. I personally think that he would be a shoo-in on the council, probably the highest vote getter, if one, he came out and vocalized full support for citing medical marijuana dispensaries in Worcester, which are now legal in the Commonwealth, and take it a step further and offer to autograph his signs for college students. He probably would have been the guy that figured out how to dominate the youth vote simply by cashing in on his last name.
You know what you have is on the sign, on your campaign sign, you have 5 stars, but the last one is actually a marijuana leaf if you look closely.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many angles that he could have taken with that in a contemporary fashion. Again, just last week, Gallup had a poll came out. It's near 60% of Americans across the board. That's including people in Louisiana and Mississippi, totally in favor of full legalization of marijuana. It's a missed opportunity in marketing this campaign.
Well, hopefully he'll get on there with all these other guys. So voting for district council, running for the city council District 1 as a challenger, Chris Rich. He was on this show.
Yeah, I missed that one. How was he?
He was a good guest. He has an IT background.
Okay.
I think that this is kind of cool. I feel like IT is super important.
Yep.
I feel like, sometimes, I personally, for example, have gone to the city council and complained to them about website stuff.
Yeah.
Video archive stuff, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And people on city council are not dumb. They know how to use computers. They know what's going on. But I think somebody who has a greater depth of knowledge and the practical knowledge of how to make these things happen, valuable for the council.
Extremely important in terms of marketing to the city, as we mentioned, as I was saying before, is something that's lacking on the council overall. It's something as simple as our website. If you look at it and try and look at it with the city's website through the eyes of a non-native, it should be your first stop to get introduced to the city. If you were somebody from another part of the country, another part of the world, who looks at that website, you're going to know when our trash pickup is, you're going to know where to get a dog license, but you're not actually going to really know much about the activities and the points of interest that are available to you in the city. It's not a good marketing tool. I think somebody with an IT background could actually help flesh that out for folks in the city and help them understand what powerful tools technology can be in marketing a city like Worcester.
District 2, City Council District 2, Councilor Palpatine, the challenger, Jonathan Cortez. He was on this show.
Again, I missed him, but I ran into him after you did the show. Yeah.
He was a good guest.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm going to say about him. Number 1, nice guy. Number 2, not a Sith Lord, to my knowledge. Number 3, super physically fit, runs, does these mud runs, knows how much he can bench, knows how many push-ups he can do. Yeah. Healthy, physically healthy, physically able to handle the job.
We had a nice conversation after you had done the show. If I'm not mistaken, he works in state government.
Yes.
I mean, he's got a background in actually understanding how bureaucracy works.
Yes.
Having worked in that world myself, I'm going to guess that also means he's probably got some good insight into what is the things that are really broken about bureaucracy and whatnot. Also something very useful to bring to the table here in the city.
I think that this is true. Frequently people say, I have no experience with government and this is my calling card, this is why you should vote for me. And maybe in some cases it's true that you're not going to bring the problems of government in there. but I feel like it's more frequently, it's just sort of being like, I don't know, like, you know what, this basketball team has gotten stale. I don't know anything about basketball or sports, but I know about management. I'm going to be the one in there to come in and change it up. In some cases true, in some cases completely misguided. You got to have some people on there who understand the craft.
Yeah, having a general sense of how government works is not a bad thing.
District 5, Bill Eddy, for which see 508 episode 170, 508 176. Matt Fox has a pretty detailed discussion of the pros and cons of Bill Eddy. The challenger is longtime Worcester school committee and city council member who then decided not to run last election cycle and now has decided to jump back in at the district level this cycle. Gary Rosen. You'll note the first episode of this podcast was titled Mayor Gary Rosen.
Yeah.
I love Gary Rosen. Somebody this week asked, why do you have such a man crush on Gary Rosen? I love Gary Rosen. I wish he had been on the show. We tried to get him on the show. The scheduling was impossible. I got to say a couple of bad things about Gary Rosen first.
Okay.
I wish I would have been able to say this to his face, but Gary knows I love him. I don't like him as a pundit. I don't like him as a columnist. Yep. That's what he's been doing since he retired from the city council. It just reminds me that like 80% of the time we disagree about politics or whatever, and that I don't find his writing very compelling.
Mm-hmm.
I love him as a politician. He is out there, he is talking to people, he is making a human connection, he is an amazing advocate, he is amazingly energetic. Like, sometimes people give him flack, like, why are you campaigning 24 hours a day? Why are you always on the street corner? Why are you always knocking on doors, talking to people? Because the man is a dynamo.
Right.
He's more energetic with each passing year. He's awesome. He's like pretty much the one eloquent person on the city council, which is why I was surprised that this didn't transfer very well to his punditry. But certainly in the context of a city council meeting, the Gary Rosen speech is always a breath of fresh air. An important thing to have on the council. Somebody who can give a coherent quote to the press. I love Gary Rosen. I wish I lived in that district so I could vote for him.
I think if for no other reason, he should be the 508 candidate because we have had a long and storied history of having activists, people who promote civil disobedience on this show.
Yes.
And there is nobody in this current race at large, district, across the city, who has been a bigger proponent of violating our city's anti-panhandling ordinance by standing on street corners with his signs than Gary Rosen. I mean, he is the physical living embodiment of everything that comes through this show, just by virtue of being willing to stick it to the man and say, I'm going to stand here with my comb and my 1,400 signs by myself. Nothing you can do to stop me.
You know, Brendan, as funny as it is, I have to point something out.
What's up?
That would only be panhandling if he were asking for something of value. He's asking
He's
for
only
votes
asking
for District
votes.
5, Worcester City Council.
No value
I
there.
don't think that is an object of value. So there you go. I mean, there you go. Now, I hope you're taking notes. Download this to your phone and bring it into the ballot area.
Watch
with
the
you.
show in the
Well,
booth.
as you're voting, just take a half an hour.
Nobody will mind.
And now you know who to vote for. School committee is, I don't know, school committee is just sort of a crazy group of people. I don't even know who's on the school committee. I just care so little about school committee. Obviously, our great friend and sometime co-producer of this show, Tracy Novick, is running again for re-election to the school committee. She has been a very opinionated school committee member and has done a tremendous amount to get the information out there, live blogging notes from meetings, posting every possible thing on her blog and on Facebook to get information about how the school policy is going on the internet. Again, I feel like even if you hate Tracy Novick's politics for some reason, don't you want one Tracy Novick on the school committee?
I would, I might not be as apathetic to the school committee as you are, but I would say that there are two people actually who really need to be on that school committee, and it's Brian O'Connell and Tracy. And I think in a very weird way, the two of them bookend just an incredible wealth of knowledge about the way the state formulas and the state statute regarding funding for local schools and operation of local schools actually works. The two of them, they really do fill the role of being the go-to people when there's a policy question that might not be fully understood on a local level. They're the two people that will be able to help you walk through that question and come to a reasonable answer without having to try and find your way through the State Department of Elementary and Secondary Education and spend the rest of your life researching an answer. They'll have it for you. It's important stuff to have because it's a very complicated system. As you said, it's a huge aspect of our city budget. A lot of that funding comes from the state. It's not always entirely clear how or why that takes place. The two of them get it.
I think we got to do a couple corrections here. We interviewed a lot of people, and our interviews on this show have not been very adversarial with candidates. So sometimes people have said things which were not true. and we just want to offer up some corrections here on the show. I'm just going to go through 3 of them. I'm sure there's a million of them. If you want to email me these things, actual corrections, we can post them on Facebook or something for more corrections. First one is the great Mesfin Bashir, who was on the show and in passing complained that the REC does not do educational work. The Regional Environmental Council does a ton of educational work. There it is. The second thing would be Michael Gaffney. Michael Gaffney on the show, we asked him about his connections with Activate Worcester, his connections with Tea Party staff, and he just sort of was like, I don't really know anything about that. I'm always interested in politics. I don't know anything about that. We said, what about this upcoming event where it's like an event, kind of like a fundraiser for you and Donna Calorio, being run by Activate Worcester, the local Tea Party group? He said, I don't know. He said, I don't know anything about that. You know, people invite me to lots of things. I don't know that if I'm going to go to that or not. I don't really know what it is. Brendan then, after the show, did a little research and found it online and posted it to Twitter and was like, here's the event, man. And Gaffney responded on Twitter, thanks, was not on my radar. Brendan then came back saying, not only is this on your radar, dude, but you've RSVP'd to say that you're coming to this event on Facebook. I mean, a Facebook RSVP is like legally binding, dude. You are a lawyer. You should know this. Anyway, and so on Twitter, Gaffney's response to this, his RSVP to an event that he told us he didn't know anything about because it was a Tea Party event, he said, you are doing your due diligence. Google my articles and decide who I am and report it. I did say I went on the TV show, meaning the Activate Worcester TV show. So there's Michael Gaffney. The third one, the most important correction/controversy, Soraya Rivera, incumbent city councilor, not opposed in District 4, was on the show. We arm wrestled. I defeated her. It was a long match. It was very close. It's been alleged that she threw the match.
I'm not taking a stake in this.
It's actually alleged by both Callista and the two co-hosts of that episode. Both of them after the show, I was like, that was a tough match, and they were just like, you know, she threw that match, right? It was so obvious. I don't know. When you watch the video, you decide. It felt like it was at least close. Mm-hmm. It felt like it was close to me, but anyway. Brendan.
Mike?
Any other?
You know, I wanted to double back for a second on the Gaffney thing, and
sure.
I actually really enjoyed that exchange, and I think it goes back to the point that I was trying to make earlier that, look, I mean, I've got lots of friends that are Tea Party members. I'm baffled by their politics and whatnot, but I mean, people are people, right? And we can't just cut people loose because we disagree with aspects of their worldview. Whatever.
I would point out we've endorsed Michael Gaffney just now on this show.
Yeah, no, but I think he did a great job actually, and it's a valid response that he made. Whether or not he was dodging a question or whatnot, I mean, that's fine. People can figure that out on their own. If there's any criticism there, though, I think it's important that people actually do embrace their actual beliefs, right? I mean, we're trying to elect you to be as a role in city government. Who you are is an important bit of information. Who you are and what you believe in is a very important bit of information for people to have, and you should embrace that. Look, I mean, I've held tons of crazy beliefs in my life, you know, and a lot of them have evolved. I've discarded quite a few of them. There's nothing wrong with, you know, giving a couple bucks to a group, you know, 4 years ago, and then somewhere down the line saying, hey, you know what? I realize these folks aren't for me and moving on. Yeah. But you have to be able to be clear with that. And I think if there's any criticism to be levied, it's that. He had some valid responses to those questions, but I think there's still, it's not entirely clear like who you are as an individual, and that's what we're basing our votes on. Well, here's what I'm going to say. Predictions. Oh, we're not going to have time to talk about ETC and predictions, are we? Let me see how much time. For who? Not very much. I want to talk about predictions for the race. I have no predictions for this race. I have no idea who's going to be mayor. I have no idea who's going to be on the city council. I have no expectations for the race. How about that? Not even no predictions. I just have no expectations. I bet a lot of the incumbents will be reelected. Probably. But you know what? We are going to see some turnover. I mean, we've got... there's at least one open seat. We've got one open seat on the city council because Joe Bryan's not running for re-election. So we're going to see some kind of changes there. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Yeah. That's my prediction. Yeah, no, I wouldn't want to hedge a guess on any of the newcomers at all, to be honest with you, or how things go in terms of voter turnout. The one prediction I would throw out there, I think it's going to be an abysmally low voter turnout. People are not I don't think Russell Brand is going to have anything to do with that. I think it's just going to be the natural byproduct of cynicism and apathy in Worcester. I think we've gotten to the point in the city where there are too many people who don't relate to what is happening in City Hall and really just can't be bothered to show up and vote. You know, I kind of don't relate to it either, I have to say. Like, you know, I don't know. Gabriel has asked me the other day, are you going to vote? You famously sometimes don't vote. I am going to vote this time, even though sometimes I don't vote. Anyway, we got to get off this television here. Thanks for being on the show, Brendan. Thanks for having me. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next week.